AVC John here. I haven't made a video for a very long time, possibly 6 months. I can't think of an exact reason for it, but I just lost my interest and I had an exchange of messages with Mark Mibbertube, and it was essentially on the lines of that I think he recently made his first couple of videos for the first time in maybe a year, nearly a year. And essentially we were in agreement on the reasons for us both stopping for some time, and that was that we'd lost it felt like it was becoming a chore, and I don't make videos if I haven't got anything to say, and I always felt that when I did do a video it was because I always wanted to try and express something interesting about music. This is my reintroduction, if you like, and it is as a consequence of last week really, and I've been involved with the VC, making videos for probably watching them initially and then making them for maybe something in the order of 4 years, maybe that's a bit longer, and I do take a regular interest in the Facebook arm of it as well, so I can be a bit of a stalker in that respect. However, the point I'm coming to is that the VC for me, I was introduced by my good friend Harry Taylor, and he urged me to watch a few videos, and I did do that. And over the years, so several people, I'm not really going to mention any names because I don't want to miss anybody out that falls into the same category that with one possible exception. And this is really commentary on the friendships that grow up amongst people, and it's a bit like your first day at school when there's a mass of people, maybe 200 people, but in there's 4 or 5 or 6 that become your really good friends and a wider circle that you move in. And I think that happens in the VC as well. Some are more like a school, more gregarious, some have greater numbers of friendships, but I notice all the time of hey buddy, people talking to each other. And one of the individuals who I have become particularly friends with, I think, is Rob, and Rob's a friend of lots of people, so I don't count myself in some sort of I don't set myself apart from everybody else. However, and that has grown over the years, with us sending records backwards and forwards. Now Rob, in his own words, is terrible at responding, but we've often talked about records. I don't agree. He sent me some fantastic albums, as I'm sure he's done the same with other people. However, the point I'm coming to, many of you out there know that Rob is on holiday in the UK at the moment. He's now in Edinburgh in Scotland. But last week we were delighted some 2 or 3 months ago. I was delighted when he said that he was actually staying in Staffordshire, and there was an opportunity for us to meet, and so this is sort of the story around that really. Rob's putting his own pictures, and I'm looking forward to he's excellent at taking photographs and recording the occasion, so I'm sure that there'll be some more photos on Facebook of our get together, our sort of full day we spent on Friday. We did meet earlier in the week. Anyway, back to the music, because that is why we communicate here. Rob, as I say, he and I spoke about a lot of records, and over the years he said, "I'll put one of those aside for you," or you know. So when the story of what we did last Friday will emerge on Facebook, because Rob will tell you what we did there, I'm sure, and there'll be much better photographs. But I eventually, after we'd had a full day out doing different things, we came back here. And I, for one, am absolutely delighted that he never did send me any of these records, because it meant that he brought them with him in a record bag, and I was slightly embarrassed that I didn't have a big pile of records to reciprocate. So this is that pile, and what I'll do is I'll try and tell you the story of each one as I come to it, and the conversation that happened at the time between. So the first one is this, and it's called Passion Saucers, and it's a compilation put together by Peter Gabriel, following his original soundtrack album. Well, it was more than a soundtrack, called Passion, which came out in 1989. Peter Gabriel was massively, and it was his soundtrack initially for The Last Temptation of Christ, but he was massively influenced by world music, which we term world music. And this is his compilation of sources, recordings, things that influenced him in the making of that album. He doesn't play it himself, he simply oversaw it put together. I've listened to it a couple of times. It really is interesting, but I now need to go and listen to Passion. The story of this record is that I think he actually got it for somebody else, and when he pointed it out to somebody else that he got it, he says, well, if you don't have it, I know a guy who's going to be interested in it, and that guy was me. So that was the first one that came out, and this I think might be a promo copy. I hadn't realised that. It is a promo copy on the back. I hadn't realised that. I might have been told on Friday when we were going through this, and it was great. It was a bit like Christmas for me, because I was just kept pulling out records, and there's quite a stack, and all of them have got meaning, because it wasn't like a surprise, any of them, with the exception of some over there, which I'll come to. Now the next one is this. It's True Colours by Split Enz. Now a lot of our conversations have been about the differences between UK pressings and US pressings, and Rob and I are very similar ages, about a month older than me, and we've had parallel lives until we met with or met through the VC, and we always comparing records and things that we've liked and what the differences are, and something's been lost really over the years, because we've got closer to the US in product that's available. Now this True Colours is actually the second issue of this album, and the reason that it was a conversation piece to us is that the second issue is laser etched, and I'm going to really struggle to show it. I don't know if you can catch that. I'm looking on the screen there, you might just see it. And it was an attempt to address piracy issues, I imagine. My copy of this is the original one. It's the red sleeve. There are 4 variants of the cover, and my original is a promo copy, but it's completely black virgin vinyl, if you like. So that was a conversation that we had, and Rob produced that at the time. Probably the very first conversation we had was when I picked up on a video Rob was doing, that when he was in high school, one of the bands that he was one of his most favourite bands was The Beat, or in America the English Beat, and that was our conversation. So I said to Rob, I'll try and pick you up the English versions or the British versions and send them to you, and I did do that. You know, probably our first exchange, I might have sent him those. So the next 2 that came out were the US versions of the English Beat. And in fact, the Beat were led by Dave Wakeling, who's born in Birmingham, just down the road from here, supported by Rankin Roger, who's that guy there. There are now 2 versions of the Beat. There is the English Beat, playing the American circuit under Dave Wakeling, who lives in Nevada apparently. And there's the Beat, led by Rankin Roger now, doing the rounds in the UK. This album was also released in Australia with that moniker, the British Beat, as well. So there was actually a 3rd style of that, and I only discovered that this morning when I was researching it. So those were the first 4, I think, 4 albums there. The next one, the 5th that came out, was this. One of my all-time favourite albums, this is. I first heard this when I was a student in about 1982, I think. The conversation revolves around the fact that in the US it was released like this on brown vinyl, or it's transparent brown vinyl with some purple veins running through it. It's beautiful, really. My deck, which I'll try and get a photograph of this to show you, I actually have a cork mat, so it looks even better playing on a cork mat. The absolute standout track for me is Someone Somewhere in Summertime. But there's not really a bad track on this album. It's a fantastic album. Rob, I only discovered by seeing photographs. I can't remember whether it was actually Rob's video that I saw it on, but we had a conversation about it, and that was another one that he put on to one side for me. As I say, I was like a kid at Christmas. I was being able to pull his hair. I didn't almost know what to say, really, how to react. Now, anybody that's watched any of my videos knows I'm a massive Bruce Springsteen fan, and Rob has sent me some really nice stuff in the past. I've got 4 glossy pictures framed up there. He sent me a superb press bite of Men Without Women by Little Steven, which is still one of my sort of prized possessions. I have got several other, I've got some 12-inch singles he sent me, but he brought me and gave me a couple of other things of interest. I'll show you this first. This is Nebraska, classic album, released in the UK. It came as a single sleeve, wasn't a gatefold. So the first thing that Rob said to me is, when you take that out, what's the first thing you notice? Well, this is a gatefold. I've now researched this. The sticker's important on the front there. It says the solo album featuring Atlantic City Highway Patrolman and My Father's House. It wasn't. This was actually printed and pressed in Holland for European release. So I'm thinking like the Low Countries, like Belgium, Benelux, maybe Germany. It's just really interesting to me that it comes as a, because the actual gatefold is so much nicer than the single sleeve. The actual inner, the inner sleeves are the back and the front of the inner that the record came in on the UK issue. This also has an inner which is just the printed lyrics as well. So that was that. And then the other two things were this, Brilliant Disguise, which was the lead single off Tunnel of Love with, as we noted, the poster in. This again is something I didn't have. I'm not even sure if it was issued with a poster for the UK market. I need to check that out of interest, so there's a poster in it. And then finally there is the Chimes of Freedom live EP, which came out to be coincident with the tour that Bruce did with Peter Gabriel and Sting to support Amnesty International. I did have this on CD and I bought it at the time, but for the life of me I can't find it. I did a bit of a reorganisation of all the CDs, got them in alphabetical order, sorted some out, and in sorting some out and rationalising them, I've misfiled the CD that I've got of this. So that was really welcome. And it actually has a live version of one of my all-time favourite Bruce songs on there, which is Be True, which should have been on the River album. It was bordering on criminal that it was not released as an album track, but we finally got it in the Tracks box set, and it's on the Tracks triple vinyl set. It's comfortably one of my in the top 10 of my favourite Bruce songs ever. And then there was a couple of Rolling Stone magazines which he gave me, which I haven't read yet, but I'm going to find 5 minutes. And then the final thing was a keyring which I'd expressed some interest in. Rob had a present off his lovely wife Cassie, and he kindly brought me one of those as well. So the final thing I really want to say is just a bit of an observation that I knew Rob was in the area for a week. We had a couple of conversations when he arrived in the area on Saturday, and we'd arranged to go out on Monday evening. And what my thinking was that because we'd never met before, there was myself, my wife Julia, Harry and Hannah, his fiancée, Rob and Cassie and his daughter. And I thought, we've never met before, so we've only conversed by messaging, never spoken on the phone until Saturday. What if we don't get on? You know, or what if there's nothing to talk about? So I thought, we'll have a bit of an icebreaker, we'll have a meal out. Well, it could not have been a more successful and enjoyable evening. We lost track of the time. Rob was wanting to get away in the daylight initially. Well, that went out the window because we just kept talking and talking. We were the last people to leave the pub restaurant that we were in, and I'll slot a photograph of us, and you can tell by everybody's faces what a great evening we'd had. So that should come about here. So you can see that we just had a great time, and then we had a full day last Friday, and we went on a brewery tour, which I was not sure whether it would be good or not, and it was excellent. I learned loads there. We managed to get to a record shop. Then we went for afternoon stroke high tea, a really nice venue that we're aware of. And then the four of us, me, Julia, Rob, Cassie, the 5 of us and Emma, came back here. And we didn't stop talking. We managed to find some time for me to have a look at these records, but we got on like an absolute house on fire. And the really strange thing is, throughout most of that time, other than when we were in the record shop, we rarely spoke about music. We just spoke about everything that was going. So There are a number of other people in the VC that I hope to meet that I've never met. I hope the feeling's mutual, and if it is, you know who you are. But it's just really an endorsement of all the positive things about what can happen in the VC when people get together who have a like mind, a love of music. And after the last few days, I felt we were friends before. I know now we are massively firm friends, but not only with Rob, but also with Cassie, who we massively enjoyed her company, and Emma, who's a great, I was going to say a great kid, I don't want to sound patronising, she's a lovely young woman. And it has now made it clear in my mind that I don't want that to be the last time we see them as a family. They've now moved on to Edinburgh. I know there's other people that want to meet up there. They met other people while they were down here. I hope to do this again with other people in the VC, because it was one of Rob thanked us towards the end, saying, "Oh, thanks for organising this," but it was no hardship. It was like having a holiday ourselves. So, on that note of friendship, I'll leave you, VC. I hope it won't be another 6 months before I make a video, and let's keep it going.